John Rush here today. My son Richard Rush behind the camera. This is a review of the all-new Prius for 2016. This happens to be the Prius 2 Eco version. We've done another Prius review. My son Richard did that one. I would encourage you to watch that one. That was a non-Eco version, so the fuel economy is not quite as good. We'll talk about the Eco version and what you get with fuel economy in this. But it's all new for 2016, entirely redesigned on the outside of the body. And what I'm going to tell you is you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. We haven't found anybody in between that says, it kind of grows on me. It's either a love or a hate, and it just depends on what you think as far as the car looks itself. We'll start in the front. Very low front end. They've actually sloped this down considerably from what it was before. They've got the same height as far as the emblem is concerned as, for example, the Scion FRS or the Subaru BRZ, basically the same car. And as you'll notice, they've just put some really sharp lines into the car. They've done a lot of different componentry in this car to lighten it up, aluminum, etc. They've just done things to actually get the car, again, lightened up. Aluminum brake calipers, for example. They've done some different things with the regenerative braking. They've got a different hybrid system in this car than what it's had in the past. Rear visibility is a little bit better on this car than what it was in the past, but you can see they've molded all the lights, things in, the shapes. The way they've done it, this has a very low coefficient of drag, around 0.24. They've done an extremely good job of getting the economy on this car up. And I'll tell you right now, 58 city, 53 highway, but get this, our average, and we'll show you this in a little bit, has been between 66 and 67 miles to the gallon with me driving it. Now, I don't have a lead foot. I drive pretty reasonable. I am not exaggerating. I have been in the upper, or mid 60s range on fuel economy on this car, which is a significant improvement over some of the Priuses in the past. So some things that are on this car that they've done differently real quick. So new global architecture throughout. It's got more legroom in the front and more headroom, but they lost a couple of inches of legroom in the back seat. So just keep that in mind. Cargo, which we'll show you in a minute, is up 14%. They've done some different suspension on the vehicle, which gives it a better ride and handling. This is basically a car that's all on its own. There is no other car out there even like it. In fact, some of the competitors in this world have gone away. Prius is pretty much the owner of this particular market all by itself. We showed you earlier the bi-LED headlamps in the front, which, by the way, auto-adjust. The full Intune system we'll get into in just a little bit. Warranty. One of the things I get on the radio show a lot is, what's the warranty on a Prius? 15-year, 150,000-mile warranty on the hybrid system. 10-year, 150,000-mile warranty on the battery system. And in this vehicle, so the Ecos, I should say the Prius 2's Eco versions have the new lithium-ion batteries. The non-Eco versions have the old metal hydride battery, so that this particular vehicle that we're driving has the lithium-ion battery. Some of you might ask, how many Priuses, by the way, have they sold over all these years? 3.5 million worldwide. And as I said a minute ago, that battery, it's now under the seat instead of underneath the cargo, which is where some of that cargo, increased cargo space comes from. So as we go that direction, let's just show you the rear real quick. Of course, not an automatic hatch. Price on this car, which again I haven't mentioned, $25,535. And as you can see in the back, plenty of room back here for cargo. As I fold this seat down, real easy to do. If you folded both of those down, plenty of room. You can see a little bit of a hump right there in the seat, again, because the batteries and such now are underneath that rear seat. It is not a flat folding floor, but not bad. Plenty of cargo room back here. There is some spots back here to put some things. You do have a little air, your compressor, because this has a non-spare tire vehicle. So that's the air compressor to pump up the tire if you had a flat. There's a little bit of other storage room in there. I'll fold this seat back up for you. And I'll get in the back seat here in just a minute and show you the rear room. But again, this is up by 14% as far as cargo room. This is a car, again, you either love the looks of the car or you hate the looks of the car. What I will tell you is, looks aside, after driving this car for a week, I will tell you, it's a functional car. It works great. Very high mile vehicle. Again, 60 plus miles to the gallon in this car. And I do a lot of city / highway driving, so that's just not all city driving. As I do more city driving, that number went up. I'm confident if I did strictly city driving, I think I could see 70 miles to the gallon in this car pretty easily. Great pickup. The car runs well, works well, handles well. I tell you what, we're just going to keep the camera rolling and I'll hop into the back seat. Again, as I said earlier, they did lose a couple of inches back here. Not enough for somebody like me. I'm 5'10". This seat is adjusted for me. So as you can see, 5'10" person sitting in the seat driving. I've still got plenty, 6-8 inches of room between my knees. Plenty of headroom back here. Comfortable seating. I will say this as I get into the front seat, there is no lumbar support on the, no back support that pushes out here into your back if you're sitting in this seat. Not a deal killer, but it is something to keep in mind. If you're somebody like me that suffers from some lower back issues, it is nice to have that lumbar support. The rest of this is pretty plain. Not a lot here. Again, $25,000 for this car in a car that gets 60 plus miles to the gallon. Let's jump to the front seat. All right, folks, climbing into the front seat now. Toyota Prius 2016. New, redesigned for 2016. Interior, exterior. You sit lower in the car now. It's a little squattier stance to the car. I do like the refinements they've done on the interior. I love the way they've done the center stack. Very easy to navigate. We'll get into that in just a few minutes. Very functional as far as usability of space. Center console here, not huge, but deep enough where you can put some things in. It's got a nice little tray in here where you can set your phone or what have you in here. It does have the USB plugs here and your 12-volt port there. Glove box is down underneath here for storage. You do have a little bit of storage in the door pockets, which Richard can show you. Not a lot of high-end features, but again, the car's $25,000, and as Richard said just a moment ago, as we took a quick break in between our shooting here, is this a car that you would buy versus the Toyota Corolla, similarly priced? Frankly, I'd buy this car over the Corolla because the fuel economy is so much better, and frankly, functionality-wise, this is a tough car to beat. And you look at the warranty that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, I'm not sure why you wouldn't buy this car over a Corolla other than maybe just the looks of the car. Again, this is a car that either you love the looks or you hate the looks. I'm going to put Richard in the back seat. We'll go through some of the infotainment system real quick. Won't get into a lot of detail on that because Richard does that himself a lot when he did the last review. And we'll take a quick drive and talk about the 2016 Prius. And again, this is the, make sure I say this right, the Prius 2 Eco version. All right, also seat material, I didn't mention that yet. Richard was talking about how it looks a little bit cheesy. I mean, when you first look at the interior, it looks a little bit funky. What I will tell you is it's really very functional. I actually... probably shouldn't tell Toya this, but I actually spilled a little bit of drink on it the other day on accident, and the material is such that I took a little paper towel, wiped it right back up, no residue, no stain, no nothing. So very, very functional as far as that goes. Easy to maintain and take care of. And believe it or not, they're fairly comfortable. So again, they don't have lumbar support, but comfortable. You sit a little lower in the car, as I mentioned earlier. Again, very functional car. You've got sunglass storage here. Center console storage, as I talked about a minute ago. Now, the difference between the last car Richard drove and this car, you notice the white bezel around this particular area. The last Prius car that we drove, this was all white, and Richard is saying that actually this car, he thinks this car interior-wise actually looks better than having that all white. The all white just sort of stands out. I didn't see the other car, so frankly, I can't attest to that, but looking at this car, again, this car functionality-wise works great. All the standard Toyota Intune system is in front of you. I won't get into a lot of details because we've done that in the past. Very easy, very functional system to use. And I will tell you, this car is relatively quiet. So if you're on your Bluetooth phone, talking on your phone on Bluetooth through the system, even at 60, 70 miles an hour, very easy to communicate. The other party hears you just fine. There are cars that we drive where one of the complaints I get from other people that are on the other end of the phone is, I can't hear you, lots of road noise. That was not the case in this car. So when I go to reverse, it does have the backup camera, does not have dynamic grid lines, not a deal killer, just remember they're not there, but it does show you what's going on, and it does give you the backup alarm telling you in reverse. And there are audible alerts in this car. Go back to neutral. There are audible alerts on this car that actually come into effect to let other people know that the car, since it can go in kind of that EV stealth mode, battery powered only, there are alerts around this car. So if there's a pedestrian nearby, it lets them know that there is a car coming so that they can actually hear that there's a vehicle approaching. Some other things that they've done in the line. Again, Toyota, great job on the hybrid version. If you're looking to buy a hybrid car, frankly, they're the leaders. They've done the most work on this end of things. They've got the technology that even a lot of the other manufacturers don't have, or if they do, they've either borrowed or adapted or bought from Toyota that technology. One of the things, complaint-wise, that I have got personally, and I think Richard does too, I know it fits the car by having all of the gauges and the display in the middle of the car. The downside is the passenger sees everything you're doing. The plus side, I guess, is the passenger sees everything you're doing. It's not a distraction to look to the middle because naturally that's where your eyes are anyways. One thing that would be nice on this car, just as a side note, Toyota, it could be an add-on, an option that somebody could order, would be heads-up display, where if you're used to looking here versus here, you could get the same information, just something worth looking at, and it may be worth worth Toyota you looking at. Other than that, everything else works fantastic. It does have the different modes where if you want to go into the eco mode, the sport mode, etc., you press this here, you can go normal. You can do the power mode, you can do the eco mode. So I shouldn't say sport, I should say the power mode. Normal, power, eco. I drove in eco mode the majority of the time, and as you can see real quick, if Richard can zoom in here, my average here just in the last couple of days, 67.1 miles to the gallon. If I go to the car mode here and I look at trip information, you will notice on here that my past record is right at 60 overall for the entire week that I've been driving, 60 miles to the gallon. Not bad. So I'm doing much better than what they're actually saying the car will actually do. And again, I've seen my figures go up as high as almost 68 miles to the gallon if I'm doing some around town driving. So with that, let's take a quick drive. Gear selection here, which is all electronically done now. I shouldn't say it that way. They call it shift on the wire now is what they call it. So as we get to driving, you'll notice it does have a little bit of road noise, and again, we're only doing 25, 30 miles to the 30 miles an hour here. A little bit noisier than what you're going to find in some other cars, but frankly, it's not bad. Ride is decent, actually better ride than it used to have. Frankly, I enjoyed driving this car. I was pleasantly surprised. Get past the looks of it, which frankly, me personally, not a huge fan of how this car looks, but once I got past the looks, it's a very functional car, works great. Ability to store all your cargo in the back, have some passengers with you. Regenerative braking I do like, so you can actually use the regenerative braking on your own. So if you're coming down a hill right now, you can engage that, take your foot off the gas, and it will actually just naturally slow you down and charge the battery all at the same time. Maybe that's why I get a little better fuel economy than some others, because I use this selector a lot. It's sort of like when you have a truck and you want to downshift coming down a grade. It's very, very similar to that. The regenerative braking works fantastic where you're not using your brakes as much to actually slow you down when you're coming down a hill. So real quick, let me pull over here and just give you my opinion of the 2016 Prius 2 Eco. And I think Richard would attest to this. He's behind the camera. If I was going to buy a Prius, I would buy the Eco version. Richard, you drove both. What would you say? I
would agree with you. I would buy the Eco in terms of price point as well as in terms of look and fuel economy as well. That extra added bonus, and I know it's only listed at I think 2 or 3 better, but as you can see, it's a lot easier to do more than that.
Yeah, you can probably get 10 miles to the gallon better if you really work it correctly. So I like the Eco version. Richard likes the Eco version. Price point, again, $25,000 and some change. The car works fantastic. I love the way they've restyled the interior of the car. Makes it very, very user-friendly. Not that it wasn't before, but it makes it look way more modern than what the Priuses used to look like. So get beyond the outside looks, and some people love the outside look. It just depends on who you are. What I would do is test drive one. If you've never driven a hybrid, frankly, go test drive one at your local Toyota dealer and just see for yourself how the car works, because they actually, you know, believe it or not, they work fantastic. Negatives of the Prius, real quick. I'm just going to give you my negatives. Looks, to me personally, are one. The second one, which isn't really the fault of the car as much as it is the human nature of people that were around, you get cut off a lot in this car. What I mean by that is guys driving big trucks, sports cars, things like that. I can be in the left lane doing 75 and still have somebody in a truck and an SUV cut me off because they just don't like the Prius being in front of them. And I'm not exaggerating in that in the least. That's the one negative about this car, is you really have to pay attention in traffic, because there are Prius haters out there that just hate guys driving Priuses, and I experienced that this past week. So aside from that, great vehicle. I enjoyed driving it. As long as you're aware of your surroundings at all times. For the other drivers that don't like Prius, it works great. Go test drive one at your local not your local Prius dealer. Go drive a Prius at your local Toyota dealer. Tell them John and Richard Rush from Drive Radio sent you.